Good
afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the council meeting, and a special welcome to everyone in the gallery. Thank you for making the effort to be here. And today we have three speakers speaking on item 10.2, de-amalgamation, implementation plan and financial sustainability plans. And our first speaker for 5 minutes is Peter Marshall, speaking on behalf of the Tumbarumba Business Chamber.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. Look, I'm representing the Tumbarumba Chamber. We are in support of the recommendations, 10.2, the de-amalgamation, implementation plan and financial sustainability plans. I guess one of the key issues that comes out of the Teggett report is the 50% SRV for Tumbarumba if it was to stand on its own. And in the context of the 42% SRV, which failed 6 months ago, and in this report of a 32.4%, the Tumbarumba community thinks to regain its autonomy, it's good value. Everyone I've spoken to since a couple of the councillors when I got this report and these numbers it's a no-brainer to regain that autonomy, the local representation, the increased representation that would come from a de-amalgamation. We're all in support. There's been a long history of Tumbarumba, the community of Tumbarumba, or the former Tumbarumba Shire, fighting for a de-amalgamation. We have booked out all of the spots available at all the hearings. The sentiment hasn't changed. An exit poll done after the first local government elections was, I think it was 93.7% in support, in favour of a demerger. I can't put the numbers on it, but it would still be the vast majority. So in that sense, what Tumbarumba feels that we would gain, eyes wide open that, there is that case that it's going to mean a significant SRV. It's getting back that local representation, that increased representation, being able to bump into your councillors on the main street. As you know, well aware, local government is that ground level, level of government. People want to come up to you and complain about the gutter in their lane. It's that really sort of local and that increased representation. It's been done in terms of how the communities of interest, the two areas are different, they're disparate. The current area is just vast. I think it's an impossible task for councillors of Snowy Valleys Council to really sort of be across all those areas, the disparate interests and needs of the different communities. And a de-amalgamation will help to restore that. And that's really what the community is after. One of the issues, I guess, that has been brought to my or raised with me is candidates. We only had Julia standing from the southern part of the Shire. If it was standing to represent the former Tumbarumba Shire, there would be more people, and I know this for a fact, who put their hands up. Just the sheer amount of travel that you guys have to do to try and be across all the issues in Snowy Valleys, half that area does make it much more possible to double the number of councillors. Does make it much more possible. The other issue, which I sort of wanted to mention, was the referendum. If this is moved forward, then it's got to go to a referendum. The southern half, which has that prospect of that 50% SRV to make a new council sort of viable for it, that will get up. I'm absolutely sure of it. I'm comfortable to speak on behalf of Tumbarumba to say, the vast majority would support that. And for the residents of the former Tumut Shire, 10% versus a 32.4% SRV, I think just speaks for itself. I think that answers that referendum question. So the first step of moving this implementation plan, referring to Boundaries Commission, I think we support it. You know, the process as outlined in the recommendations, I also sort of fully support. I think moving to, put this to the Boundaries Commission and then put it out for review in parallel, I think that is pragmatic, it's sensible, the timelines are very tight. I support, the staged approach, which is outlined in the de-amalgamation plan, implementation plan. I think the timelines are realistic, but they are not open-ended. It puts a deadline on it, and it doesn't leave us. The worst thing would be to not have that deadline and have that uncertainty going forward.
Thanks, Pete.
Cool.
That's your 5 minutes.
Cheers.
And any questions for Peter?
Just quickly, you talked about eyes wide open. I appreciate that on the rate increase. You do realise there's also $1 million loan that would then go with the new Tumbarumba Council. There'd be $1 million loan for each of the councils to fund that extra cost for unscrambling the eggs. It's a complex process, so it's sort of quietly mentioned in the report, but it's not sort of headline. So that's something that just to be aware of, that will be part of it.
Is that with or without the $5 million?
That's as well as.
As well as.
Look, it's going to cost to unscramble the egg, as you put it. Like, it's going to cost, but the financial, like as it's set out, that SRV is to cover that loan. I think, we'd all jump at it.
Thanks so much, Peter. I think, if I'm reading correctly, the message that you're sending very loudly is that the community of Tumbarumba are well aware of what is going to be required should the de-amalgamation be, or the minister actually say yes and go to the and goes further. So Tumbarumba is fully aware of what the obligations would be, and they're happy to accept those.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dave, Councillor
Not
Sheldon?
only the obligations, but also the results coming out either from the referendum and the Boundaries Commission. Tumbarumba aware of what the consequences can be and fully aware.
What do you mean, David, in terms of
Like
information?
It's positive, and we go to the next stage. Referendum knocks it back. Same as the Boundaries Commission say, hey, this doesn't stack up. Where does Tumbarumba sit there?
I guess this is the first step.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
And
Judge's decision.
judge's decision, but I guess the strongest message we can send. This does say that. The vast majority of Snow Valley's residents are going to be better off financially if this is de-amalgamated. And the Tumbarumba who are all for it, keen as beans. So we can't control the Boundaries Commission.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate your words of strength and passion. You've made your statement, and it's been well heard by this council.
Thank you.
I agree. Thank you very much, David. Thanks, Pete.
Can I just ask you?
Yes, of course.
Sorry, Peter.
Councillor Thompson.
Just following on from what Councillor Sheldon has said, I get the feeling that part of what Tumbarumba is asking us to do here is to actually make sure that we make it clear to the media and to the minister that Tumbarumba understands the financial implications and are prepared to take those on board.
Yeah.
So that as part of the process, instead of just sitting back and allowing it to take its course, to actually make sure that those people are aware of the commitment by the community of Tumbarumba.
Yeah. Look, everyone I've spoken to, as much as I could in the last couple of days, various comments is no brainer, makes sense. I'd pay double. We strongly believe Tumbarumba to look after the differences and the interests of things are done a little bit differently. We're done a little bit differently. So to be able to have that autonomy back, that increased representation, that increased ability to have a say, we'd take it knowingly. Yeah.
Councillors, any other questions? Pete? Pete, thank you for coming all this way for that representation. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
And now, councillors, we've got virtually Robbie Ladbrook ready to speak. Robbie, you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Julia. I am here representing Tumbarumba and the business community here supporting the move to 10.2 in front of you today to continue the process of the demerging the councils. As a business that's heavily invested in our community, I really consider that the future costs as outlined in the 3 options below for Tumbarumba are an acceptable price for us to pay. We are aware of the costs and the implications as a community. We are also aware of the costs and the implications of no action, which for us is a much larger risk because we don't get the autonomy and representation at the end of the no action option. So for us, as a way forward, we see that that's an acceptable price of risks and implications, as it were. We acknowledge that there will be a significant cost, but it's a harsh reality that there will be costs regardless, and that at least this course of action will result in and deliver to our community some self-determination, a self-determining council that will operate to benefit our community with the hope of in the future becoming financially viable once more. Because in reality, the system we currently have, if we do no action, does not lead us to a financially viable council in the future. Let's make sure that everyone gets that clearly. Our business personally is heavily involved in the visitor economy sector, and we've worked hard to bring visitors to the region, both local and at state level. And I understand that there is some community concern that the deamalgamation would lead to losing the Visit Snowy Valleys brand. There's the big line item in that 10.2 about tourism. I don't believe that this is the case. Whilst the brand value itself is a bit hard to quantify, the cost of replacing it with a new brand would be out of reach for many years for either council. And I believe that the brand asset could continue to live on through a partnership model where both future councils contribute to and continue to use this brand effectively. To take the easy path of doing nothing, of not supporting and continuing this process, that is to keep our existing failed council model, should not even be an option ahead of us right now. It dooms our community to debt and hopelessness without adequate representation, and still with the prospect of future SRVs in the order of 50%, now and into the future. The common quote of saying insanity is doing nothing over and over and expecting this different results is what applies here. The past years of this failed experiment, thanks to the New South Wales government, are evidence and the proof of this statement. In fact, the current Snowy Valleys Council model is not financially viable. In fact, change needs to occur in order to have a different outcome. I do urge you all, as our elected representatives, to continue to be brave, to do the hard thing now and to make a change, not just to do nothing and silently sandbag this process. Do the right thing for our community and continue the efforts to bring this deamalgamation to resolution, as you all stated you would support when running for election, if the numbers stacked up and proved viable. Now, the numbers for continuing doing nothing don't stack up and don't prove viable. So that's enough evidence for you. Thank you for listening to me in presenting this case.
Thank you, Robbie. Well said. Councillors, questions for Robbie? Yes, Councillor Sheldon.
Robbie, all the risks from the plan, the deamalgamation plan, are all understood from the community within the Tumbarumba Shire, the old Tumbarumba Shire?
Yes. As is the risk of doing nothing and staying in the current Snowy Valleys Council.
Yeah, I'd just like to.
Councillor Wirt.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to ask, because it says here 50% for the SRV, but there's several other charges. There's water charges, 10% per annum for the next 7 years. There's utility user charges, 3% per annum. There's multiples of cost increases. Do you think it'd be beneficial to have that all these increases put onto a model of, say, a farm, or potentially what it would cost increases on, say, if you own property or own a house, would that sort of paint the picture a bit better of what will cost the average homeowner or average property owner in Tumbarumba?
I don't believe it would, Andrew, because I think it's only looking at then the cost of one pathway. And if you're not modelling those same costs against the pathway of doing nothing, then you're actually misinterpreting the information for people. So unless you can put that same modelling upon the do nothing, which it will be, I don't believe in any way that this council currently could move forward without putting up those sort of rates as well. So you would have to do it both ways. And yes, I did see all of those other 10% increase above CPI increases in that as well, but we still see that as good value for having a self-determining council and good representation for our region.
There is a plan for the Snowy Valleys Council. It was in a Taggart report for SVC, and it was sort of 5% per annum over the next 7 years, and there were several other charges that were going to be in place. It would be interesting to see what the average property or average homeowner would be paying in a comparison between those two plans. I think that would be beneficial for everyone in the Shire, in Tumut, Tumbarumba, Adelong, Batlow, just to know what the outcomes for the average person. It's all well and good to see 50% on the page, but unless you put it in actual dollar figures of what it's gonna change, then it becomes just another number.
Agreed. Yeah. We would like to see that if the money is going towards something, it is going to our community where we get representation. Otherwise, we're paying all of these extra services and for people to drive across the council region.
Yep, for sure. Yeah.
Any other questions, councillors, for Robbie? Robbie, thank you very much for representing the Business Chamber, and Councillor Sheldon has one more question.
No, I just want to thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks, Robbie. And now we have Greg Lyons, also talking on item 10.2, the Amalgamation Implementation Plan and Financial Sustainability Plans. Thank you for coming on, Greg. No, you weren't late. It's perfectly, just because you're so far away. Noted. Thank you.
I sat down after I decided to do this, and I kept coming up with all sorts of metaphors, and they were with verbal diarrhea in effect. And that when you come back and the executive summary and the background has got some really good points in it, I can't disagree with any of it. I'm not across the figures particularly, except for this 50%, and these are really round figures, the 50, 36%, and 10% of the three areas. On that, it just seems like a no-brainer for Tumut to support Tumbarumba leaving. It's the cost of this 50%, and you've raised some good points about all the hidden costs of it. How that plays out, nobody knows. All I can say is that the people I talk to, and myself, I'm a farmer from the southern end of the Shire down in Timberway, are committed to whatever it takes. Now, it may well turn out that it takes too much, but a referendum will surely sort that out. All I'm asking for is the support of all the work that's gone into this. You've just got to pass this, please, and take it to the next stage. And it's obviously a long process. There's been an awful lot of work going to supporting getting it this far without a really dedicated group. The Save Tumbarumba Shire group have done so much work on this, and they've got the community behind it, and always have had. I think there was a notion early on that they'll get used to it, but we're not getting used to it because it is so bloody horrible. There's no two ways about it. Just as an example, when I leave home to go to Sydney, which I do regularly, a quarter of my trip to Sydney is in the Snowy Valley Shire. 130 kilometres. A couple of weeks ago, I went for a drive right down the far end you've got to go into Victoria to get across, and then you go backwards and forwards over the river several times. I guarantee most of you have never heard of Bigger.
Mhm.
And I go across the bridge, and there's a local farmer with his kids on the back, and he said, what's it? And he said the Corryong Show used to collect it for us, but there's apparently there's been a breakdown in that arrangement. And I said, oh, but there's Dornby. Sure, you're in the Tumbarumba Shire. He said, yeah, that's right. I said, you're stuck with the same lot we are. Yes. So we really feel stuck. And it's whatever it takes. And that you've got to pinch yourself when you say that. But that's how we feel at the moment. So I'm reasonably confident that you might pass this. It would be wonderful if you could get it, and it's unanimous because it'd be a real statement for the next stage, if you could do that. But that's all. I'm just another voice from farming community into the business community. But it's awful for Tumbarumba's just essentially suffocating, dying. I know tough times everywhere, but you know, the pubs shut. How come Jim's got so many pubs, by the way?
Always had.
Nothing compared to what they used to have.
Not all of them are open.
Used to be 6.
More.
But
Yeah.
there's small businesses, you know, coffee shops try to open up, and you know, it's just the town is flat. And there's, well, as you heard the other night, there's all sorts of issues with people with DAs and whatever. And I'm not involved in that, but on the way it gets told, it doesn't sound good. So anyway, that's my view. So
Thank you, Greg.
I'm confident that we can face whatever's coming, and no one's pretending it's pretty. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And I want to thank you for recognising the work that the Save the Tumbarumba Shire have done, but also with that document there's been a lot of past councillors, past mayors, past and present general managers that have put work into that document, and I agree. It's a good document.
Yeah.
I don't know.
As I said, the executive summary and the history of it all, they make really good reading.
Yeah. So I note that note of appreciation to everyone who's put in to make that happen.
Yeah.
Councillors, questions? Councillor Sheldon?
Just one, as I raised with Robbie, one of my big concerns, you guys, first of all, have explained how confident you are about the financial proclamation or suggestions that's going to happen or occur in this. My thing is there is 32 risk matrix and only one of them are in medium. The rest of them are all high or extreme dangers that they're going to fall over. I just want to make sure that everyone within this, if it goes ahead, is aware of all those risks because it is pretty extreme.
Well, this document's only been out a couple of days. So
Yeah, no, I'm just,
it's unfair, but I take your point too.
well, I've had it as long as you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Greg, actually, that brings a good point. The general manager might talk about the consultation process that will happen with the
But thank you.
document.
Yeah, so Peter, Peter made comments around the two processes hopefully running in parallel, which is what I've suggested in the report. So from probably mid-January onwards, to give people hopefully a little bit of time to get back after the new year, both in Tumbarumba and Tumut, I'm thinking at this stage that we'll have a town hall type meeting initially 1 week, and then the second week there will be an opportunity for people or small groups of people to make one-on-one appointments, if you like, for want of a better word, to go through the document in more detail, to then provide more clarity around the detail to help people then prepare their submissions to the Boundaries Committee or their submissions to council, which again in the report we've said that council will then will collate those. We'll put a report to the February meeting around all of those submissions, and then we'll forward them off to the Boundaries Commission. I think it's highly likely that the Boundaries Commission may do their own consultation around the document as well. So there's possible, a few opportunities for residents of both Tumbarumba and Tumut to have input into the document.
Do you imagine we've had those presentations before where we've all spoken Would it be that type of thing again, do you think? Or-
Well, as I said, we'd probably have a town hall type meeting where I'd just briefly go over what the amalgamation plan and the financial sustainability plan says. But then I'd have more, then I'd be on another day, separate to that, I'd be saying, you know, we'll have appointments of, say, an hour where people can come in individually or in, say, maybe a group of 3 or 4. You know, maybe the Chamber of Commerce, for example, might want to come in as a group of 3 or 4 and go through it in more detail. So that's what I'm planning. And if we're overwhelmed with people wanting to make appointments, then we'll have to have another day.
Okay, that sounds good.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you so much for making the effort and travelling the distance. I think what's really important to understand is that today's recommendations is about getting this out on public exhibition until the 31st of January. So giving everybody the opportunity to go through the reports and the plans that are here. And as Councillor Sheldon said, we've only just received these as well as part of this. And I think what's also really important is to understand that that next phase of consultation is not about where to from here, because the document itself is what we are now pushing to the Minister and the Boundaries Commission for them to be looking at. So I suppose what we would be asking is for the community to look at those documents and make submissions based on these documents going forward, because we've already progressed to that point where we've got the documents. So correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. General Manager, but it's these documents going out, or if it's carried today and passed, the documents are going out. Everybody has the opportunity until the 31st of January with community consultation in the middle on these documents, and then that gets presented further as to push the case.
Well, that sounds good from my.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Greg? Greg, thank you for driving all the way here.
Sorry, I'm late.
Oh, no, you weren't late.
late.
You were perfectly fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And just
Thank you for
to
your attention.
pleasure. People in the gallery, you're up pretty early in the piece, so we won't change the agenda. We'll get there pretty quickly. Okay, first of all, I'd like to do an acknowledgement of country. Snorri Valleys Council proudly acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of this land and water and pay respect to their elders past and present. This meeting is being live streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow Council debates and decisions. Members of the public participating in a meeting agreed to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snorri Valleys Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of a meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Councillors are reminded of the oath and affirmation of the office they made under Section 233A of the Local Government Act 1993 and the obligation under Council's Code of Conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. Please ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off and are in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted by mobile phones or other electronic devices in the room. In the event of emergency, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit and follow the instructions given by the wardens. Do not use the lift. If participating in the meeting from an alternative venue, please enact the evacuation plan for that location if provided. Thank you. Okay, so we have apologies. We have one apology from Councillor James Hayes, moved by Councillor Larter, seconded by Councillor Sheldon. All in favour? Unanimous. And then we have Councillor Inglis attending via remote attendance. You can come back. And do we have someone accepting that, moving that? Councillor Sheldon, seconded Councillor Packard. All those in favour? Declarations of pecuniary interests. We have 3 from David Sheldon. So Councillor Sheldon has declared a pecuniary interest in relation to report 13.2 due to neighbours and we'll leave the room during the discussion. Happy with that. Okay, thank you. Confirmations of minutes.
I'll move that they be accepted, Madam Mayor.
Moved by councillor Thompson, seconded by councillor Hardwick. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Correspondence and petitions. We have none. Mayoral minutes. Have two. That's for, one is to report at the February meeting on the continued blue-green algae blooms in the Manor Stand. Can the report identify different options available to stop the bloom as there are mitigating effects on people, stock and agriculture downstream? And, moved by councillor Larder, seconded by
Doesn't have to.
Me.
You just move it.
thank you.
Yeah, doesn't.
It doesn't
you
get
just
seconded.
Oh, I just move it. Okay, right. And the second one is,
Is that going to include a report on the taking down of the wall? Will that include?
Yeah. yeah, I think we just look at everything, whether it's putting more water in or taking more water out, see what happens. And the second one is to have a report to ascertain council's position to support Albury-Wodonga Hospital redevelopment or to support the alternative of a greenfield site.
So that.
And that will go to the February meeting. Thank you. Okay, we have no notices of rescission, no urgent business without notice. Okay, now we're into the meeting part. We start at 10.1,
That way.
moved by councillor Packard, seconded by councillor Lata.
Madam Mayor, can I ask a couple of queries in relation to the report?
Okay, it's 10.1, councillor resolutions action report, December 2024. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On page 33, there's two items. One is to the investigation for options and costings re the installation of CCTV, and the second is in relation to the confidential report on the Adlong Services and Citizens and Bowling Club Adlong Caravan Park, please. If I could just ask the General Manager to direct the questions to the appropriate staff for an update on those, please.
Thank you, councillor Thompson. So I might just ask the Director of Infrastructure Works.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the item in relation to the CCTV investigations, as per the resolutions of council, we're continuing to liaise with the police on vandalism and antisocial behaviour in the area. So we continue that. And in relation to the policy statement and guidelines, it still stands that CCTV is an effective way of reducing crime, but it is part of a broader strategy that has to be used and can't be used in isolation. So it has to be used with a whole lot of other strategies in place to make it effective. And so we still have to come up with those other strategies, which we've made some progress on how to reduce antisocial behaviour and vandalism in those hotspots in and around the LGA.
With due respect, we've had a significant amount of time to try and do that, and the issues aren't improving. Anyway, if we can.
Councillor Lata.
Can I also make a suggestion that, in addition to the whatever we're doing in relation to this CCTV stuff, perhaps we write to the Attorney General and tell him we're sick of these woke magistrates not dealing with these offenders properly and being out on bail half the time, committing acts of violence and destruction the day after they're arrested. I mean, it's absolutely criminal what's going on.
Thank you, councillor Lata.
No, when we finish with that, I've got one for the Director.
Okay, and so the second point.
In relation to, through you, Madam Mayor, in relation to the second point raised by Councillor Thompson, the Adlong Services and Citizens Bowling Club lease, we've sent the lease back to them on 2 occasions to sign. The last occasion was last week. There were some minor amendments to that lease that had to be made. So that is sitting back with the Services Club at the moment to sign. It was sent by our solicitors, Commons Hendricks.
Thank you. Councillor Sheldon.
Is that all finished with, Madam Mayor? Okay. My inquiries in regard to 10.2 on the 16th of March 2023. Again, there's a lot of time that's passed where we applied to the Crown Lands on 2 specific items, and I'm just wondering where we're up to and if that can be closed off.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Sheldon, yes, we did an investigation on that land and found that council wasn't the owner of that land. And so we've responded back to the hospital and informed them of that. And they're happy with that response, so this matter can be closed off.
Thank you.
Good answer. Okay. So that recommendation is to note the report on the council resolution actions. All those in favour? Unanimous. Okay, now we come to 10.2, the amalgamation implementation plan and financial sustainability plan, and that also includes the late report addendum and attachments.
Madam Mayor,
So-
I'll move it with a correction in the report itself. On page 37, under the heading of report, it actually, in the second paragraph, identifies that Mayor Councillor Julia Ham and Deputy Mayor Councillor Hugh Packard had those meetings in February and then again in May. It was actually, in fact, the former mayor and deputy mayors who, and I'd also like the inclusion of Dr. Joe McGurr, who attended both of those meetings as well, MP.
And it probably would be good to say that
Yes, because it.
the current mayor and Dr. Joe McGurr also.
Well, that was in November.
Yeah, great.
So that remains the same.
Indeed. Thank you.
Oh.
Councillor Sheldon.
I would like to recommend a change in wording
Sure.
in recommendation number 1 from formally adopt to endorse. Items 2 and 3 remain the same.
I'm happy with that.
Was Councillor Thompson moving and?
I've moved it, but it
Councillor
hasn't been
Sheldon
seconded.
seconded?
No.
Councillor Thompson
So,
moving.
so you're moving. Are you happy with Councillor Sheldon's change of wording?
I am, but it needs a second.
Yeah,
It's a
Councillor
second.
Sheldon, I think.
Councillor Packard?
Well, just before we do that, there's one more correction in the report that under financial, where there's a double negative. Yeah, so it says that it's unlikely that the dividend cannot be paid from water. We need to just drop the
Yeah.
off that
Page 39,
on page 39.
second last paragraph.
Yeah. Just for clarity's sake.
So I'm happy with.
You're happy with that? So we've got moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Sheldon, with the word changing. All those in favour?
Can I just speak to them?
Oh, yes, sorry. I don't even want to speak to it.
Thank you.
It's pretty important.
I think it is important mainly because we do have we've had 3 speakers come and make the effort to come down, and we actually have a gallery here today. So thank you and welcome. I think it's really important to understand that the former Snowy Valleys Council made an absolute commitment to go through the process of which we're at the point now. And I think it would be incredibly disingenuous to decide not to continue to support what we have done up until this point. We have already generated the reports and the income. I think the fact that we've had Always Thinking come and almost do a forensic review of our finances and understanding, it is putting this council and the potential 2 new entities in a much better starting position to understand fully where we're at before we even get going. So I think that this really is a common sense, or 3 common sense recommendations, and just to encourage people to make sure that when the documents come out for public exhibition, that they make the time to be informed and then also actively be involved with the consultation process. And that's not just from the community of Tumbarumba. You know, this is not a Tumbarumba-centric recommendation. This has the potential to impact our entire shire, and people should be informed. Understand, as one of our speakers or several of our speakers spoke, the potential for Tumbarumba is a 50% SRV. the potential would be a 10% SRB for Tumut. People need to be informed, but until this goes out and we move these recommendations, that won't happen. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Larter.
Can I just say, look, I endorse moving forward with this, but look, I've got to say, I just can't believe that here we are again, wasting more time and money on something that should just automatically be done. I mean, these idiots did this overnight, impacting the entire community. We had to back it in because we were in council. I mean, we had no option. And we made the best of it. But clearly, I mean, the southern end of town don't like it, and with good reason. So, I mean, why are we going to go through all this consultation crap again? I mean, these people should just be putting their hand in their pocket and saying, right, let's fix it. We shouldn't be going, oh, let's have another, get together and sing Kumbaya for the next 6 months. And then, we'll decide again and we'll go back out to someone else and we'll get all these people, they've got their hands in their pocket on these committees being paid all this money, these boundary commissioners. I mean, it's the greatest junket known to man.
Thank you,
And what's it serving? More anxiety for everyone. Just listen, Labor government, just put your hand in your pocket and give us the resources to do what we need to do. We can get on with it. We don't need any more consultation. You're not reading the room.
Thank you, Councillor Larter, and I think there's no doubt that we want this ended. Any other speakers?
I will
Councillor
say
Wirtz.
something. Madam Mayor, I would definitely say I do support Tumbarumba and in their plans to demerge and hopes. My main concern is the financial aspects. $7 million in costs, $5 million to demerge, plus $2 million in a slush fund for anything else. 50% SRV, multiple increases in fees for Tumbarumba. It's well and good that people from Tumba say that they don't care about the cost increase, but it's the working people, the people who are at their work right now, working families. That's who's really going to pay for this. Unfortunately, it's you have to think this through as a case that encompasses everybody, not just the people that say, well, yep, I don't mind if it costs me X amount of dollars, but I think it would hurt the people who are hurting the most at the moment in this cost of living crisis. So I am concerned with that. But at the same time, I totally respect Tumbarumba wanting their own autonomy and in having their own council. So I think the best path forward would be to put it forward to the Boundaries Commission, get their recommendation, and if it goes through the path of referendum, hopefully we have more information by that stage and we can make an informed choice. Everybody in the Shire can make an informed choice whether they want to demerge and have their voice heard. So yeah, so I'll just
Thank you,
leave it
Councillor.
at that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Packer.
Just following on what Councillor Wirtz said, if it goes through the Boundaries Commission, I think Tumbarumba need to be absolutely keenly aware, and I'm sure you are, that your destiny as a demerged council will be in the hands of Tumut. And the demographics and the vote, so even if 100% of eligible voters vote in Tumbarumba, you still need a significant majority in Tumut to get the thing over the line. So just stressing to you that that's where it will end up if it gets to that point. And you'd have to be aware of the demographics and the change in perception of council that's probably occurred over 8 years. And so as a sort of I'm trying to think of as a political campaign I'm sure you're fully aware that that's where your effort would need to be to get the yes vote up. Just
Councillor
it's out of our
Hardwick.
hands.
Thank
I
you.
just want to add on from Councillor Packer there as well and mirror his sentiments there, that it will be a slog for the people of Tumbarumba to advocate to the wider Shire to get this across. And I support this. Look, we are democratically elected members who represent the whole Shire, and to deny communities within that shire, the right to have their voice democratically heard would be a terrible thing. And so I urge all councillors here to vote in support of this.
Any other speakers? Okay, yes, councillor Lyle.
Can I just say that, look, that really, we wind up in a situation where it's not democratic because the majority of the people here in Tumut, it shouldn't be about the poor people of Tumbarumba now having to convince the people of Tumut because the government made a bad decision. They should just get on with unwinding it, pay the price for it. I mean, they've got plenty of money to build storage sheds out at the airport, $4 million. So, this is a drop in the ocean. Just do it.
Thank you, councillor Larder. Now we've had, if it's okay with councillor Thompson and councillor Larder, I think it is. We've got a point 4 there. Note the late report and consider it in.
Sheldon.
Oh, Sheldon. Councillor Thompson, councillor Sheldon. Note the late report and consider it in conjunction with the substantive report. Item 10.2.
The only question was it formally endorse or just endorse?
Endorse, isn't it?
Yeah, endorse, not formally endorse.
Happy with that, councillor Johnson? Okay, councillors, here we go. All those in favour? Okay, we have Thompson, Packard, Larter, Hardwick, Wirtz.
Unanimous.
English, it's unanimous. And thank you for attending. If you want to leave, you're more than welcome. If you want to enjoy, you can.
Thank you.
Item 10.3. Do I have a mover? The attendance at the 2024 Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference on the 17th to 19th of November at Tamworth. Moved by councillor Hardwick, seconded by councillor Larder. Do we have any speakers? Oh, well, who moved it?
Councillor Hardwick.
Councillor
I'll
Hardwick.
reserve my right.
Just a bit blurry, no? Okay.
No, I'm happy not to speak.
Not speaking, no speakers. Thank you.
I
All
thought it was
those,
wonderful.
it was. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 10.4, Audit Risk and Improvement Committee Annual Report.
I'll move that.
Moved by councillor Packard, seconded by councillor Sheldon. Councillor Packard, would you like to speak?
No, no need.
Councillor Sheldon. All those in favour? Unanimous? Is it councillor Inglis? Yep. Thank you. Item 10.5, pecuniary interest returns for newly elected councillors. Moved by councillor Thompson, seconded by councillor Wirtz. Councillor Thompson?
Madam Mayor, thank you. Just to note that the pecuniary interest returns are for the newly elected and in fact for all councillors and elected representatives and senior executive staff and designated staff. It's really important to understand that it's not isolated just to the pecuniary interest forms, but it actually takes in, we've got later on the fraud and corruption and also the code of conduct that's referred to. So it's not as simple as just filling in a form. We all need to be really cognitive of how we manage, and it's okay for us all to have conflict. We just need to manage them and understand them. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Thompson. And I have to thank councillor Inglis, who pointed out that mine was not up to date, and that will be rectified at the February meeting. So thank you, councillor Inglis. Would anyone else like to speak? Good. No? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 10.6, councillor and staff interaction policy out for public exhibition, moved by councillor Packard, seconded by councillor Sheldon. Councillor Packard, would you like to speak on this?
No, it's okay.
Any other speakers? All those in favour? Unanimous. Item 10.7, fraud and corruption control policy and plan for public exhibition. Mover councillor Larder, seconded councillor Sheldon. Councillor Larder, would you like to speak on this? No. Any other speakers? Councillor
Madam Mayor,
Thompson?
I just think it's really important. I know that we're not making comment on them, but just because people may not necessarily be reading the recommendations, these policies are actually going out on public exhibition. People are being asked if they don't agree with certain aspects to actually put a submission in, and following that, the adoption will occur. So just in relation to the previous policies and also this policy, it's about going out on public exhibition and people having the opportunity to speak.
Thanks for the clarification. Okay.
So if there are comments, at what level do those comments come back to council? If there's one spurious comment, do we hear about it? Or so we hear about any comments that are brought back on?
Yes, the report will come back to council.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 10.8, 2025 meeting calendar. And we have two recommendations there. Do I have a mover?
I'll move, Madam Mayor, with correction to the report. On page 59, I think we're referring to no scheduled ordinary council meeting for January 2025, not 2024.
Happy with that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Packard? No. Councillor Inglis? Well, sorry, Councillor Thompson, do you want to speak first?
He's on mute.
Councillor Inglis, I just have to put it to Councillor Thompson first, and then you're on mute. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think what's really important for people to understand is if you look at what the recommendations are and the schedule of meetings, it's taken a very different turn to what we've had in the past. And so this is an opportunity to try and encourage people to be all our councillors in order to be able to attend more meetings without impacting on either employment or things that they are involved with. And so while we're putting these into the calendar at the moment, there is always the opportunity for a change with given time and a report if required. And so at least this gives us a starting point of where we are and what we're doing. It's not locked in stone, but it is designed to actually provide an opportunity for all people to be able to attend without that enormous burden financially for those that are employed or even self-employed.
Thank you. Councillor Inglis, did you want to speak? Just, you're on mute, Councillor Inglis.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to propose an amendment to the dates. The June meeting is at the end of autumn, and it's starting to get dark early and cold, and we're going to all be driving home at night. I personally,
And in the snow.
I beg your pardon?
And in the snow.
Yeah. I was just going to suggest that we might consider swapping June with November. If we do that, of course, we'll be in daylight saving, and they're still getting the 3 meetings, and we won't be subjected to driving in the dark and the snow, as it was said. It just seemed to me to perhaps be a practical way of dealing with it. That's all I wish to say.
Do we have any speakers to it? I do note that those meetings are at 2 o'clock, so that can't occur. Councillor Inglis, just those top 3 are at 2 o'clock, whereas the other ones are at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, even so,
Mayor,
sorry.
it would have to, I don't accept it as a change to this, so it would need to be an amendment and seconded as an amendment.
So Councillor Inglis has put an amendment to change June to November. Does he have a seconder?
November to June, would that be for both the dot points?
So where there's June, he put, so it'd be February, October, November in Tumbarumba, and then March, April, May, June, July, August, September, December at Tumut. Remembering that not all councillors live in Tumut.
Or would it be better just to swap What date in
That's the
June?
amendment.
That's the
Thursday.
amendment.
What date in June is the,
It's always the third Thursday.
right, so the solstice is on the
22nd,
26th.
21st.
Perhaps you would maybe, if you just swap May and June with the, I'm just wondering if you're having your meeting so far apart between February and October is then.
You happy with that, councillor Inglis? If we
Yes,
instead of,
I'd accept that proposal.
okay, so the amendment is for February, May, October.
You're seconding the amendment, councillor Words.
I'm changing the amendment to February.
No.
I think councillor Inglis is happy.
Councillor Inglis has got the
Inglis is
amendment.
changing, I'm second, he's changing.
Okay, so we've got an amendment from councillor Inglis and councillor Words.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
What was it? Just what?
So it's,
For what?
May.
May to June. June to May.
Councillor Inglis going to speak.
Councillor Inglis, do you want to speak to that?
Oh, no, I think I've already explained my rationale for
that's,
suggesting that.
Okay.
that's an amendment.
Okay, now councillor Sheldon, do you want to speak to the amendment?
I want
Oh,
to.
no, I just want to make a comment. It was alluded to by councillor Thompson and by everyone that these aren't necessarily set in stone. We can change them when we need to.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson?
I'll speak against the amendment, Madam Mayor. What we need to understand is that the reason that we're actually changing the structure of how our meetings are is to try and accommodate and be fair to the majority. And I think in doing that, we also need to understand that we need to be fair in relation to the councillors and the staff who don't live in Tumut. The accommodating part is that particularly in the winter months, the Tumbarumba meetings are starting at 2:00. All of the others start at 4:00 in order to try and get that. So I think while we're thinking Tumut centric, is that we're not actually taking into consideration the impact on other people who live not in Tumut and other areas. So that's why I speak against the amendment. I think we've tried to be really fair and accommodating to the majority of people most of the time. And that, as we've said, if something comes up, we can actually, with notice and a report, change that meeting time and date and location. But I think that at this point, it would be really unfair if all we're worried about is how it's going to best suit those of us living in Tumut.
Thank you, councillor Thompson. I think the amendment was moved by councillor Inglis and seconded by councillor Works.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I have a vote on people if you'd like to accept the amendment as put forward by councillor Inglis to swap May to Tumbarumba and June to Tumut? All those in favour?
Can I just say something first?
Very quickly. Yep.
Look, I've got concerns about going to Tumbarumba any time during the winter. I mean, somebody who spent nearly half of their career as a paramedic attending accidents on that road during winter due to black ice and due to snow. I mean, it can happen from any time from April onwards. There's significant wildlife. You get significant storms. The majority of people attend here. I mean, it makes no sense in a visual era where you've got remote attendance. I mean, why are we changing the meeting? We're having it at 4:00 here and 2:00 there. I mean, it's just as bad. I mean, the meeting's going to finish at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and you're still travelling home in the dark on very dangerous roads. I think from an occupational health and safety risk assessment, it's very bad judgment.
Thank you, councillor Larder. I'm going to put the amendment. All those in favour? Councillor Inglis, councillor Works, councillor Han.
I
All those against? Councillor Thompson, councillor Packard, councillor Larter, councillor Hardwick, councillor Sheldon.
This is where I have a problem.
Councillor Sheldon, we'll have to
Sorry.
follow the meeting procedure. Thank you. So the amendment was lost, so we go back to the original motion. Okay, so we've got the original motion. Councillor Thompson, do you want to close the argument there?
Thank you.
Or you,
Did you
sorry,
want-
Councillor Sheldon, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, because I'm not, and I'll say it, I'm not for or against it. I realise my role as a councillor. Just sort it out and I'll go with the flow, as I said, right from the word go. I don't want to be put up that I'm going against or for. I'm actually sort it out and I'll just go with the flow. Democratic decision.
Thank you, Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Thompson, would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Councillor Lada raised a very good point in relation to the fact that should the conditions be so bad that we can't travel either way, we can all do it electronically and remotely and no one has to travel if that is the instance in relation to the weather at the time. So I think that what we're endeavouring to do here is, by and large, make it more accessible for the majority of people. Who knows, for the next local government election, maybe we can attract more people who are actually working and employed and have their own business and things, because it won't be requiring them to continually take whole days off.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Lada. Councillor Thompson had closed the argument. All those in favour? We have Councillor Thompson, Councillor Packard, Councillor Inglis.
No, I'm against. I'm opposed. Sorry. Sorry.
No, that's right. So we've got Thompson, Packard, Hardwick, Wirtz, Ham. And so we've got against is Inglis and Lada. I knew we'd missed someone.
David must be
So
abstaining.
he's left the room. Thank you, councillors.
And can I just put in a request for remote attendance on the Tumbarumba days? Thanks.
Oh, you can do that on the day.
I'm formally
Won't be a
advising you
problem.
now that I'll be.
Okay, so on to 10.9, dissolution of Adelong Showground Committee as a Section 355 committee.
I move that way.
Councillor Packard, seconded by Councillor Hardwick. There are 5 recommendations there, councillors. Councillor Packard, do you want to speak to this?
Just to say that 355 committees to function need to function within the parameters set by council. And if there's ever any issue of that, I think having them outside of that structure is a much better way to go. So this is a win-win situation. They get the freedom of operating in their own way, and we lose the risk of having them operating outside of our operating guidelines. So I think it's a great outcome.
Excellent. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, so I'll put those 5 motions. All in favour of those 5 recommendations? All those in favour? Okay, so we have Thompson, Packard, Inglis, Hardwick, Wirtz, Ham. Councillor Sheldon, do you know how you're voting?
Which one's this on?
Adelong Showground.
Yeah, yeah, no, I haven't got to against yet. We're just waiting on Councillor Sheldon.
The dissolution of the Adelong.
Yes, we've got, sorry, Councillor Lada. Councillor Inglis, how are you voting?
I'm in favour.
I'm for the dissolution.
You're for?
Yeah.
You're opposed?
No.
No, so-
Oh, Inglis, sorry, you are there, sorry. Councillor Inglis.
I'm in favour.
Councillor Lada against. You're in favour? Yep, we've got it. My apology. Okay. Thank you, councillors. Okay, now we're at 10.10, statements of investments, November 2024. We've got 1 recommendation there. Do I have a mover? Councillor Wirtz, seconded by Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Wirtz, would you like to speak to these? And then you, Councillor, no, Councillor Inglis would like to speak.
I just have a question, if I may. On page 67, a bit down the page, main cash disbursements excluding employee costs during the month included fleet replacement, $434,000. My questions, 2 questions. 3 actually. What part of the fleet was replaced? Was it really necessary? And thirdly, what happens to the vehicles that are replaced?
For the Director of
Through you,
Infrastructure.
Madam Mayor, to Councillor Inglis. So the fleet replacement was a combination of both heavy and light vehicles. Majority of it was light vehicle fleet. There was one item of heavy fleet, which I think was a grader. What happens with the fleet replacement is that it goes to auction, and the old vehicles are sent to auction where we get the best price we can, and that money, that revenue is then put back into the fleet as revenue. So it goes back into the fleet. The idea of fleet is that it's self-replacing.
Okay, Councillor Sheldon.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. My question is for the General Manager or the Financial Guru.
Good.
The Office of Local Government, again on page 67, the financial assistance grant of $305,000. Could you please explain that?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So we do have for financial year 24-25 a total of 7.7 mil, out of which we received 85% of the grant last year in 23-24 financial year, and the remaining will be paid in quarterly installments in this financial year. And that's what that 305K is made up of.
So we have more payments coming.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so.
Councillor Wood, you want to close? No.
I was just going to ask about the Brindabella Road upgrade from Transport New South Wales. Is that
Councillor, the Director of Infrastructure from Works.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just clarifying, Councillor Works, what page are you on there?
page 67? It was just above that one we're talking about for the Office of Local Government.
The 1.4 million.
1.4 million from Transport New South Wales. Is that to do with the
That's the grant funding we've now received through the funding body. So they've paid us the $1.4 million
To do the scope?
to do the design, which council awarded a tender for on the 21st of November. But they've given us the tender was for less than that amount, but they've given us 1.4 million for that first stage, which is purely design and feasibility. We have to do another number of other reports that make up that balance of the 1.4 million. So that it's really just the grant payment has now been received by councillors in the bank.
And I'll just comment on that the interim general manager and I drove the Brindabella Road last week. And it's very exciting that we're going to do 10 kilometres on it because it was such a good thing to do.
Yeah, I was excited.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to put that recommendation. All those in favour? Councillor Inglis? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, now we're in management reports. 11.1, Riverina Regional Library, amendment of agreement. There's two recommendations there. Do I have a mover? Councillor Sheldon, Councillor Packard. Councillor Sheldon, would you like to?
Nope, no need.
Any comments, councillors? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in relation to the report that identifies that the services, the outreach services for Cancoban, Jingellic and Turma will actually cease at the end of current agreement, I think with the Riverina Regional Libraries out service.
You might clarify that. And
Just the sorry, I did not actually highlight the area, but it's in relation to the outreach service that is provided. It's the travelling library, so to speak.
And the mobile library.
The mobile library, yeah, that one too, the one with wheels. So currently we do provide a service to Cancoban, Jingellic and Turma, which is in the future not going to be there as well. And just to clarify that those communities have been or will be contacted and that will be discussed with them prior to it occurring.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Thompson, that will cease in about 18 months. So council plans to notify all affected residents probably early next year.
Thank you.
And would you be able to say why? Services are.
It was part of the sustainability review that council did around June, July. So that was one of the recommendations that was resolved by council, was to review library service hours and also the mobile library service to those, townships as well.
Thank you. Councillor Sheldon, do you want to close? All those in favour of those two recommendations? Unanimous. Thank you, councillor. Okay, we're now at 11.2, HumeLink project update number 1, the 12th of December 2024. This recommendation has been put, this report has been put forward by the interface manager for HumeLink. Do I have a mover? Councillor Thompson. Seconder. Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Thompson, would you like to speak? Senior Councillor Inglis.
I know, I'll wait
Thank you,
until
Madam Mayor.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thank the interface manager for the report. I think there needs to be some clarification just in relation to, we go between Transgrid, HumeLink, Lumia, the different organisations, and just trying to understand how they all link in with each other. And the other query, Madam Mayor, that I would actually like to direct to the General Manager, and he may be able to gain some information for us, is just in relation to when we start talking about the social legacy funds and the percentage from projects that are directed to the community. There seems to be some question over whether it is Transgrid that would be responsible for providing that funding for the social legacy, or whether it's distributed across the contractors of the Lumia and HumeLink organisations. So just going forward, so that we as a council have a clearer understanding when we're talking, how do we actually understand, is it Transgrid, is it Lumia, is it HumeLink that we're dealing with?
Mr. Mitchell, did you want to answer that, or do you want me to have a go at it?
I can answer that through you, Madam Mayor. The entity that's ultimately responsible for approving the grants and the legacy funds for this project is Transgrid. The conduits to Transgrid are HumeLink East and West and Lumia. They simply give them the submissions or proposals that they've received. I'm not clear on their process of exactly how they then assess or make a decision or make a recommendation to Transgrid, but the ultimate body that then makes that decision is Transgrid.
Thank you. Councillor Inglis.
Would it be then fair to describe Lumia as a commercial arm of Transgrid?
No, it's a contract.
Through you, Madam Mayor, not a commercial arm of Transgrid, Councillor Inglis. They're all contracted to Transgrid to provide those projects. They're actually not part of Transgrid. So I believe Transgrid went through a tender process for these works, and the consortium partners for, say, HumeLink East, which is Acciona, a very large multinational company, and HumeLink West, which is UGL, another large company, provided tenders to Transgrid and were successful in being awarded those tenders. Transgrid just calls them, for convenience, HumeLink East, HumeLink West. I'm not exactly sure how Lumia were contracted to Transgrid, but I don't believe they're an arm of Transgrid.
Well, if you look at their website,
An independent company.
I accept that, but if you look at the website, it says Lumia, and underneath that Transgrid.
Yeah, they're a consortium partner.
Thank you. Look,
Councillor Sheldon.
I've got something to add.
I beg your pardon. Okay, Councillor.
I just wanted to put on record that I've got great doubts about this situation, and in saying what I'm about to say, it's no reflection on any individual. It's the position that concerns me. firstly, just to clarify something, might I ask whether the government, the state government or the federal government was approached to provide the funding for this employee before Transgrid was approached?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, the government wasn't approached. The model that we're using for this particular funded position is very similar to another model that's used by Transport for New South Wales with councils in Metro Sydney, where for all the major infrastructure projects in Sydney, to ensure that the project moves smoothly through all of the local government area and gains all the local government approvals and whatever processes they need to have in place, they create a position like this position, and they're generally called interface positions, manager positions, to assist those consortiums, large companies, and Transport for New South Wales to deliver the project. So it is not a unusual process. It's not an unusual position. I know other councils in Metro Sydney have very similar positions, completely funded by Transport for New South Wales.
Yeah, well, Transport for New South Wales is a government instrumentality, is it not?
Yeah, it is.
Thank you. The reason I have my doubts are, I asked because I wanted to spend for considerable potential conflict. I asked the General Manager to provide me with a copy of the agreement, which I've received, and I've been asked to treat it confidentially, which I have. I then asked for a copy of the position description, which the General Manager has declined to provide me on the basis that it's operational and separate from the agreement. However, I note that the dot points under the position description down to and including the last dot point to enable the assessment and processing of council approvals relating to the project and the construction activities actually come from that agreement. What I want to say, which concerns me, it's from the agreement, and I don't think it's commercially sensitive, and that's why I'm comfortable in saying this. But the problem that I have is that the position is subject to the review of Transgrid. That is the position of the council employee, and that Transgrid can insist upon that employee being replaced, and council is under an obligation to replace the employee if so directed by Transgrid. And that, in my respectful position or opinion, puts that poor employee in a considerable conflict in knowing that she has to satisfy Transgrid in the performance of her work activities in the employment of council. The risk of conflict of interest is not only considerable, it's inevitable, and it's already been demonstrated in that one meeting in which I attended, being the Buck meeting, the employee, the person in that position or the employee declined to answer a question on the basis that she was not authorised by Transgrid. In a recent report or minutes following a recent meeting produced by the employee, it was noted that she accepted the consideration of those attending the meeting that she was unable to answer some questions because of confidentiality with Transgrid.
So Councillor Inglis, we're just a bit lost. Is this a question, a statement, a clarification?
Well, and they're saying that I'm concerned, and I'm expressing the reason that I'm concerned about the existence of this contract, and I'm almost finished. The other thing that concerns me is that Transgrid should be given exactly the same treatment as anyone else, or anyone else that puts a development application forward. A conflict is going to almost inevitably arise if they put in their development application for the workers' accommodation at Batlow, and it's opposed by some or some of the residents at Batlow, when we've got an employee tasked with looking after Transgrid. And then finally, at dot point 5, to enable the assessment and processing of council approval relating to the project and the construction activities, does that to me reads like Transgrid is to be given some preference when it makes applications for development application. So in my respectful opinion, the position is untenable and the contract should not be proceeded with. And if it is proceeded with, it should be reviewed in May when it's required to. I just wanted that to be on record because I just think that such as the potential for conflict, it's not an appropriate contract for council to have entered into. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Inglis. I might get the interim general manager to speak to the.
Look, I've got no comment to make other than the fact that I think things like development applications and so forth are not coming to council anyway. They're being handled by New South Wales Planning. So there is absolutely no conflict there at all. The purpose of the position, the report outlines, I think, the large number of applications that Transgrid require as part of this project. And it's the purpose of the position is to help council as much as helping Transgrid. Because an issue we had, Councillor Inglis, was that Transgrid were coming into our organisation at all different levels, seeking different approvals for different things. And what we wanted to do was have a single point of entry into the organisation, whereby we could track everything that they'd asked for and process it in an orderly fashion. Now, as you can see from that report, they've submitted a large number of, say, Section 138 certificates. Only a small number at this stage have been approved because it's going through the proper processes. So I'm quite comfortable with the checks and balances that are in place for this position.
Well, thank you. I've registered my concern that was all I intended to do.
Thank you, Councillor Inglis. Councillor Sheldon.
Well, I actually have two regarding this report. First of all, is there a service agreement on the road maintenance that the trucks are using for Transgrid? I know there are some down south, but what about like the road to Jasper and other ones where the Transgrid trucks or HumeLink or whatever we're calling them on the day that are having a great deal of wear and tear on council roads? Is council receiving any recompense from Transgrid?
Over to you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Look, in the recent approval, it's quite clear that it states, the minister states that they have to repair damage to council roads within 7 days. Unfortunately, the definition of damage is not clear. There is no definition, it's just damage. And of course, the issue of who causes that damage to council roads will always be debated. And so we've put to Transgrid, we've put to HumeLink East and HumeLink West 2 road maintenance agreements for them to review, because we believe there needs to be a structured approach to how the roads are maintained over the duration of the project, which will be 2 to 3 years. There's heavy vehicle movements along a number of our roads, and that approach would ensure that at the end of the project, there are no unpleasant surprises for HumeLink East, HumeLink West, for how those roads are handed back to council, and also the reputations of both council and the consortium partners, HumeLink East, HumeLink West, are protected for the duration of the contract, because we can say to the community, we have a formal instrument, we have a formal mechanism in place to manage damage on the roads. They've told me yesterday that they're not prepared to enter into those agreements. They're just going to go by what they've received approval for, which is they'll repair damage within 7 days. And I've told them that that's not a preferable position of council, because we're just going to get into a he said, she said argument over the condition of our roads if they deteriorate, which we're quite confident they will.
I wonder whether we should go and see Minister Penny Sharp about this. Some support.
we'd like a more formal and structured approach to how our roads and our assets are shared or utilised by the consortium partners. I just can't see at the moment with an ad hoc approach to we'll repair damage when it's reported within 7 days and then argue over who caused that damage as being a practical approach.
Not at all. Councillor Sheldon.
My second question is on page 76. There in the report, there is a summary of the interface managers and a time frame for the jobs to be started and completed. And if we look at them go down the list, they should have all been completed in November 2024. We're now halfway through December. How are those projects or exercises going? And the report on them.
Through you, Madam Mayor, a lot of those actions are ongoing, and so the time frame really in that table is showing when we receive the actions, be it the Section 138 certificates or the applications or the management plans that we've been asked to review. Under the agreement, we have promised we will get back to Transgrid within a certain time frame on a number of these items. And we do meet those obligations under the agreement. So the dates there are just indicative of when we've received the applications or the activities, and it's not indicative of when they've been actually completed. There's commentary around that in the comments column. For instance, Section 138, we've received 42, I think it was, but we've only completed 3 or 4 because for a Section 138 application, for us to approve it, we need to make sure that it's got landowners' consent on it. And they have to get that landowner's consent before we can process that application any further.
Thank you. Councillor Lighter.
Oh, I was just going to make the observation that we may be able to learn something from the Snowy Hydro 2 project in relation to the road impacts. I'm sure there is something in place with the state government in relation to the gravel trucks that are going up and down the mountain, and I think it also results in a net increase in policing that's funded by Snowy Hydro for extra highway patrol cars because of that increased traffic. That was part of the approval.
Oh.
So it may be an option too to, as an interim while this project's going on, Transgrid may well be responsible for an additional highway patrol car or ambulance or whatever the case may be as a sideline to it. It's just something you could follow up.
Yeah, good idea. With a camp of 450 people, there will be needs. Any other speakers?
Just that
Councillor Welch.
first point that you're talking about in regards to the who pays for the social legacy fund. Transgrid was adamant that it was the responsibility of the
AER,
yeah,
Australian Energy Regulator.
right. So if it's the responsibility of the Australian Energy Regulator, but yet it's the responsibility of Transgrid, who do we go and see about the issue of?
I think Stephen might want to talk, but I think there's a difference between paying and approving.
Yeah.
So Transgrid aren't paying for it, but they will be the ultimate approval authority for what comes up to them.
But I think what they were saying is they don't even have the money allocated yet by the Australian.
No, so how depending on who you talk to is who holds the whip hand. But look, I think basically how it works is that whatever it is for this project, Transgrid have got to put in a bid to the EAR to get the funding for it. Now that's whether it's to build the towers, string the wires up, or have a community benefit fund. So I guess what we're arguing is with Transgrid is that the community benefit fund needs to be significantly higher, and that was the discussions we had at the workshop last week. But ultimately, we've got to convince Transgrid to put in an application for more money from the energy regulator for this project for that purpose. Then the energy regulator has got to agree that that is a worthwhile expenditure for the project. Now, unfortunately, as we know from previous discussions with the energy regulator, they're about putting downward pressure on energy prices. So they're not going to necessarily approve
That's their
anything.
charter.
They're
Why
not
are they
going to
approving
necessarily approve anything that they think is unnecessary. If they believe it gold plates things, those types of things are not going to pass. So it's a tricky discussion or activity that we're trying to navigate ourselves through. But when we're at the CRJA meeting last Friday, Thursday night, we did talk to, some of the other councils that are similarly impacted by us. So
Yeah, see, I don't buy that argument that their charter is to put downward price on energy prices because they're building a $5 billion
We had the
infrastructure
deputy chair come and speak to us and explain it to us.
well,
Yeah, but I watched that
Yeah.
council meeting. They're building a $5 billion transgrid project. Snow hydro project.
We hear you.
And the energy prices are going up. The government's subsidising that with rebates. So the idea that their main goal is to lower energy prices is ridiculous. Their main goal is to create green energy. They're trying to do an energy
So
revolution.
we've got,
the bottom line, Andrew, is that whether it's 11 million they're giving for a community benefit fund across the 4 councils, or whether it's 75 million, the end impact on the consumer would be next to nothing when it's a $5 billion project.
Oh, exactly.
That's the issue. That's the issue that we've got to convince the energy regulator about.
That's our responsibility.
so we've got councils, Yass, Upper Lachlan, Goulburn,
Wagga.
and us. And so we're, as a group, going to go and see the Australian Energy Regulator and have a chat.
Is Upper Lachlan, are they all based in the Humeling East or
Yeah.
West?
They're in
Wagga's
East,
were at West.
East,
And
Wagga's West, yeah.
yeah,
But we're both, we're the
Yeah.
only council that has both West and.
yeah, we got
correct.
both.
And if you look at the number of consultations that they had within our area, they were far more than any of the others. So they obviously are aware of that.
Yeah, Councillor Sheldon.
Just some clarification. Look, there's some motions that have been put at the back of this report dating back to 2020. I'm just wondering for the new council, perhaps for the next meeting, we could have a report on how those motions, the results of those motions, simplified.
That was the previous council.
Yeah, no, that's right. Previous.
It's been going for a while.
But yeah, because there's some interesting points in there.
Yep.
And some very valid. Thank you.
Close
No,
debate.
thank you. Yep. Okay, so Councillor Thompson, would you like to close the debate?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to respond to a point raised by Councillor Inglis in relation to the interface manager up at the Buck meeting at Batlow. I think that whether it was in relation to Transgrid information or whether it had been in relation to council information, there are certain aspects of reports and knowledge that is commercial in confidence that isn't discussed in open forums. And as this person is the conduit between, it's not really their role to publicly make comments about things that may not necessarily be their place to make those announcements. So I don't think that it was that they were only being mindful of Transgrid. I think that they would make those same comments in relation to council if they were confidential and not public knowledge. So I didn't see that there was an issue on that day with that. So with that, I'll close debate. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Sorry, the debate's been closed. I'm sorry, Councillor Inglis.
Well, I should be entitled.
All
to
those in
respond.
favour?
No.
No, it was closing of the argument. Okay, all those in favour? To note the Humelink project update report number 1 on the 12th of December. All those in favour, Thompson, Packard, Hardwick, Inglis, Wirtz, Sheldon. Actually, it's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to the next one is 11.3, Batlow and Coburn pool operating hours, page 85. Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Hardwick?
With an amendment, or not an amendment, but a correction, Madam Mayor, on page 88, table number 3, I believe the actual figure for the revenue budget for Tumut would be 2,221, not 21.
Makes a big difference.
221.
221,000.
Okay, councillors,
Thank
if
you.
you could note that. Councillor Thompson, do you want to speak to this recommendation?
Madam Mayor, there may be somebody with a much broader knowledge of this than I, but my understanding is this report has come about and the recommendations have come about as a direct result of the community asking for more days operation or more days of the pools being operational and open to the community. And so in order to keep it at cost neutral, this has been designed and developed. And if any of the managers would like to speak further to that, but that's my understanding for the report.
Right.
Providing more access on days or over more days
For a 6-week period.
for a 6-week period over that Christmas period.
Do I have any other speakers? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 11.4, Indigo Power Licence Agreement for Community Battery, EV Charging Station and Solar Panels, Tumbarumba.
Move that.
Moved by councillor Packard, seconded by councillor Sheldon. Councillor Packard, would you like to speak to this?
Only just to say that it's a great thing to see. EV charging station being powered by solar power. That's like the gold standard, main part of town.
Here.
Yeah. Any other councillors to speak? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 11.5, post-exhibition adoption of section 7.12, Development Contributions Plan, 2025. Page 101. Moved by councillor Thompson, seconded by councillor Worth. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's really important for people to understand that the idea of having the 712 as opposed to the previous 711 is that this actually gives council a much greater input into how those fundings or the funding is going to be spent. It also gives us an opportunity to generate a much broader income from developments. And we have been assured that in future what will be happening is that there will be the plans that are developed that outline the projects that need to be looked at and addressed, and they will come to council, that we actually do get to choose where that funding is spent. But at this point, it's a step forward because previously Tumbarumba Shire Council didn't have anything in place. We are now at least having something. Thank you.
Yes, councillor Lighter.
Can I just ask a question that's come to me via councillor Hayes in Helsinki or somewhere that show off he got from a ratepayer. It says obviously 7.11 and 7.12 contributions can't be changed together on one development. But if, say, for example, a subdivision is completed and 7.11 contributions are paid, the block of land is sold, is council going to double dip and charge 7.12 development contributions for the same things upon construction of a dwelling? For example, sewer and water contributions are paid via 711. With the subdivision, will these be charged again under 712 for the construction of a dwelling?
Okay, through Executive Manager Growth and Development.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the section 711 charges, if they've been applied to a subdivision on a lot, council can't apply a section 712 plan to those because it's already been charged. Council has a register of the contributions that is levied against those lots. And in relation to the question that was asked in relation to water and sewer, that's under a completely separate act. So that's under the Water Management Act 2000. So essentially you'll have a section 712 that's applied. Then under a separate act, you'll have a section 305 and 306 under the Water Management Act that applies to water and sewer headworks charges, which is completely different.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Thompson, do you want to close? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 11.6, survey outcomes reinstatement of 2-hour parking restrictions, the parade Tumbarumba. It's on page 105. Councillor Sheldon, Councillor Packard. Councillor Sheldon.
Oh, self-explanatory.
Can I just say, I'd like to foreshadow that we apply the same theory in Tumut in time, in good time, and look to expanding the 1 hour to 2 hours parking. But after doing some surveys and some research into it.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Sheldon, you want to close argument? All those in favour? Unanimous.
Vanilla, not chocolate.
So that brings us to minutes, committee meeting. 12.1 minutes, Adelong Showground Management Committee, General and AGM minutes on the 8th of May and the 29th of October. Two recommendations there. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hardwick, Councillor Larder, thank you. Any comments? All those in favour? Unanimous. Okay. And 12.2 minutes of the ARIC committee, 25th of November. Do I have a mover?
Yeah.
Councillor Packard, Councillor Sheldon, Councillor Packard, you want to speak to it? No? Anyone who speaks? No? All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 12.3 minutes, local traffic committee, 13th of November, 2024. All those in favour? I'll move. Do I have a mover?
I'll move.
Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in relation to, there is, just trying to see if I can find it very quickly. In relation to an approach being made for a sign that outlines a turning out in the highway into a caravan or a tourist parking area or a tourist facility out there. And I think that council needs to continue our support with those to ensure that that happens. And the area is becoming more and more dangerous out at what used to be known as the Blair Caravan Park. So, and I think that, you know, next year with the traffic committee, it'd be good to see some more issues that are raised, not just about, and I get the special events are really important, but I think we've got lots of work across the Snowy Valleys that can be looked at in relation to the traffic. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Sheldon.
I think 8.1, the turning vehicle signage for Tumut Valley Holiday Park highlights the need for the councillors to be aware of what's council's responsibility and what's New South Wales Transport's responsibility, because this one is New South Wales Transport responsibility. Whereas what some's in town, except for Fitzroy and is it a long road, which is part of Snowman's Highway. The rest of it is, and I think that's important.
Councillor Larter.
It's not on there, but I was going to raise, because it fits into this grey area again. So previously I've raised about the swimming pool on the corner. Now there's a fence there, swimming pool fence, which I think is trying to act as a pedestrian sort of shelter or whatever. But what concerns me is that a vehicle gets out of control on that intersection because there is a number of entries to it. It's a state road. And I think there needs to be some bollards or something significant put there to stop vehicles from going into the pool. A pool fence just isn't going to.
It's not going to stop
No.
anything.
Guardrails and that.
Yeah. Can that be noted?
Noted, yeah.
Yep. Thank you. And we can take that to the traffic committee. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, and Councillor Thompson. Okay, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. And that brings us to 12.4 minutes of the Youth Council Committee, 28th of November, moved by Councillor Wirtz, seconded by councillor Larder. Councillor Works, would you like to talk to this?
Yeah, it was a good first meeting of the Youth Council of I guess the term, I suppose you would call it. So there's a few things there. There was a new applicant, Harrison Foster, or Harry. There's Jack that hadn't been there for a long time, so that's what the thing that was it was kicked out, I suppose you'd say, or removed. Yeah, so there was discussions about the summer pool parties at the pools. They're trying to be fair with all of the different pool locations. So obviously you got Tumut, Tumbarumba, you got Batlow, Adelong, and Cancoban. So they want to spread it out between I think it was the first Saturday in January up to just the Saturday before school goes back. So every couple of weeks, try and not have it all one weekend after the other. So I think they were trying to say Tumut and Cancoban are going to be on the same weekend, and Tumba and Adelong were going to be on the same weekend, and then Batlow would be the last one. So that was how they were going to structure their pool parties with the slides and everything. And that was mainly because of the staffing issues that were around, the increased staffing and lifeguards and things along those lines. The other thing that says here,
Would we ask the Director of Community and Corporate to speak to that, about the pool parties?
yeah,
So at this stage, they're being planned for January.
But is there any flexibility if they're two towns on the same date?
I'm not aware at this stage because it's still in the planning.
yeah, I'm not too sure why there was only 3 weekends proposed.
Why weekends when it's during school holiday?
I don't exactly know.
April, Monday.
But it was
Sounds
sort
like
of,
something we can discuss out
I
of.
think because it's school holidays, people go back to work after the
Yeah.
6th. So, you got families and parents who have to go attend. So Saturday, and they was just an idea. They were going to do it from the start of January to the middle of January. And the idea was to spread it out so more people might, travel for, if it's 2 weekends apart, they might go to 2 or multiple different days to
Thank you.
increase the amount of people. The other thing was, just the, having the meetings in Tumbarumba and Tumut to allow the different people on the youth council to actually attend those meetings in person would be unfair for the people in Tumbarumba to always have to drive down to Tumut. Much the same as our meetings here in council that we decided on.
What about in the middle of winter?
about that?
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so that was sort of and it's on a bi-monthly schedule. So did anyone else want to speak on the meeting schedules?
Councillor
Which
Thompson.
ones?
Thank you, councillor Wirtz. Nice hand pass. Just in consideration of the age of our youth council members, it's not always practical for them to actually be able to attend Tumut, Tumbarumba, and it's not quite the same for young people to be doing it over Zoom, because part of the youth council is about that networking and the opportunity to get together with other young people and work it through that way. So just a thought whether or not putting it to the youth council if they would like to have 2 entities, a southern and a northern council that can of course do joint initiatives and things, but to actually be able to engage with groups in their own community and not just on a screen. It's I feel it misses a part of that networking and the personal interaction side. Thank you. But it's something that the youth council could discuss.
The only comment I'd make, Madam Mayor, around that is that we've got to be aware that as a cost-saving measure, we took that department from 5 to 2. So trying to resource to essentially 2 separate committees could be tricky.
I also think there's a social benefit in having Tumut and Tumbarumba, especially the youth being able to meet kids around their own age from Tumbarumba and Tumut. I'm sure there'd be people willing to give them a lift if they've got parents who've got friends who have their Ps. I know two of the, like Ayana and, Amy, they're both, I think they drove, Ayana drove from Canberra to the meeting,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
They do have vehicles, but like obviously the younger, the kids who don't have their license, it'd be more difficult for them to drive all the way to Sherman or all the way to Tumbarumba.
I suppose all I was thinking is, do we ask them what they want instead of us thinking we know it? They may all.
Well,
go, "We're
this
really
was
happy
their,
with
this was
Yeah.
their decision to,
Yep.
to split up so to be fair to
Yep.
both towns.
Anyway,
Okay, councillor Works, are you
I'm
finished?
happy to
Yep, finished,
motion.
finished, right. Okay, so we've got, two recommendations. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. They're all the motions at the moment, and now we move into confidential.
I move that we go into confidential.
Can that moved by councillor Thompson, seconded by councillor Sheldon. All those in favour?